Story 1. Marry someone who sees the world the same way you do. Story 2. Do not buy things just because they are on sale. Broke is broke, even at 30% off. Story 3. Your children can get loans for school. You cannot get a loan for retirement. Story 4. Always pay off your credit card in full every month. If you cannot, do not use it. Story 5. Once you pay off your car, continue depositing 75% of your previous monthly payment into a savings account. Use that money for repairs and overtime for your next car. Doing this will allow you to buy a car without a loan. Story 6. Not everyone can afford what they are buying, especially on social media. 90% of the people doing hauls used a credit card. Bigger influencers are often gifted the items they show or paid based on link clicks. We are in a huge cycle of consumerism, and people are constantly told to hurry to buy an item or clothing and similar products that will be redundant in 5 to 6 weeks. You do not need another Stanley just because an influencer said you did. Many influencers use credit cards or accept gifted items to keep appearing successful, and lots go into debt to maintain relevance. Story 7. If you want to become rich, live below your means. You do not need a new phone every year or the top model, and you do not need designer brands. The richest people I know do not even remotely look wealthy. The poorest people I know often appear rich. Story 8. Just because you can buy something does not mean you can afford it. Story 9. You cannot save your way to wealth. You have to earn more. Story 10. Buy for quality and only cry once. It means you may cry once at the higher price of a quality product, but you will cry every time a cheap one breaks. I started paying more for clothes and have not had to replace any for a long time. Story 11. It is better to spend more now than to spend small amounts repeatedly. Quality products hold up. Story 12. Never be the cheapest person in your social circle. Value your time and pay for convenience when it truly matters. Story 13. Buying a car that will last and driving it until it is paid off frees up far more money over the years than you might expect. Story 14. I am not special. If you see someone cheating others, they will cheat you as well. Story 15. Don't pursue a master's degree if the tuition will come out of your own pocket. Story 16. When you get a raise at work or a higher salary at a new job, keep living on your old salary. Story 17. There is an old parable about paying extra for a good pair of boots that will last for years. The cheapest work boots cost less to buy but fall apart in 6 months, so you buy another pair. Over several years you pay much more than the cost of a single good pair. Once, I saved up about $4,000 because I kept having to buy newer, more reliable cars than the $1,500 to $2,500 cars I had been getting. I managed to be first on the scene and buy a Toyota with cash that should have sold for $6,000. I had that car for over 20 years. It was good on gas, insurance was cheap, I paid it off quickly, and I had no car payment for 18 years. Changed my life. Story 18. Personal finance isn't actually about the numbers. It's all about emotions. Story 19. Buy things based on how often you will use them, not how good the deal looks. Story 20. You are not owed anything by inheritance. Anything you receive is a gift. Story 21. This is low level but very effective over time. Decide on a few categories of clothing that are not important to you. In our case, it was socks. We buy only 2 kinds, summer weight and winter weight, always black. I once got a good deal on 6 pairs of green. Buy good quality and get 10 pairs at a time. You will never have to worry about losing one sock or matching them, and you can go a decade without shopping for socks. A friend with an odd shoe size, hard to find in stores, decided early in life never to get caught up in the idea that shoes are fashion. She would buy a second pair of the same shoes if the first pair felt good and lasted. Simplifying her shoe choices kept her off the constant, costly fashion treadmill pushed on women. Her feet are in great shape, unlike others who now have toe problems from absurd shoe choices. Story 22. Don't let lifestyle creep happen. I adopted that in my 30s. I'm in my mid-40s now, and it has made things much better. Story 23. If you cannot pay in cash, you cannot afford it except for homes. Spend less than you earn. Story 24. Don't clean your own gutters. I heard this on Phil Donahue back in the 1970s. A financial advisor said this is his pick for the worst financial decision people can make. You can pay someone about $80 to do it, or you can fall off a ladder, go to the emergency room, miss months of work, and have a lifelong limp. Story 25. If your expenses exceed your income, your upkeep will lead to your downfall. Story 26. Keep your wallet in your front pocket when using public transportation. Story 27. My grandmother came from the old country and had no formal education after she was 12 years old. She always told me to buy property as soon as I was able. It was the best advice I ever received. Story 28. Stop buying things to impress people you do not even like. Story 29. Max out your 401k retirement plan from the start, and you will get used to living off the rest. Story 30. View any purchase price not in dollars but as the amount of time it would take you to earn it. Something that costs $15 might seem inexpensive. But if you earn $15 an hour, is it worth an hour of your life doing work you dislike? Sometimes it is, but this perspective helps. Story 31. Don't try to impress people who aren't paying your bills. Story 32. Always plan your next career move for the next 5 years. It works. Story 33. I have two. First, learn how to play golf. Second, always bring a gift. Both help establish trust and build relationships. Story 34. Honestly, I never received advice. I learned through school and my parents' mistakes that credit cards and layaway plans are absolutely horrible. For some reason, I never allowed myself to put anything on credit that I could not pay off immediately after it posted. I am not rich right now, but I have a wife and a child, and my two main debts are my home mortgage and my car loan. Otherwise, my family has no consumer debt. This approach has allowed us to take vacations and pay for occasional repairs. It took my wife about 7 of the 15 years we have been together to understand. She used to think she could afford $75 a month and would swipe her card. It drove me nuts that a Panera meal would end up costing her more than $100 in interest. I finally got through to her, and we paid off her debts together, agreeing not to let it happen again. Those $50 on one card, $75 on another, $40 on a third, every single month, while paying only the minimums, all mean your debt never goes down. It destroys your cash flow. It is hard to invest or save when you are being drained by 1,000 little cuts. Story 35. Polonius' advice to his son, from Hamlet. Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. Story 36. The money you save is the easiest tax-free money you will ever earn. Story 37. There is a point where quality and price intersect. The point of maximum value per unit of money. Lower price often yields substantially lower quality, while higher price produces diminishing returns in quality. Story 38. Be 100% brutally honest at all times about wants versus needs. That saves a lot of money. Story 39. A car is a tool. You do not need anything fancy. Get something that takes you to work and brings you home reliably. You can get something nicer later in life. Story 40. Tax laws favor business owners and rental property owners. Taxes are one of the biggest drains on your money over a lifetime. Start a business and own rental properties. No, it is not easy. If it were easy, everyone would do it. As someone who receives a wage and tax statement, you pay for a new laptop with after-tax dollars. As a business owner, you can deduct that laptop as a business expense. If you own rental property, the tenant is effectively buying your asset for you over time. Start early and you can retire early. Story 41. My brother is bad about paying me back, so I treat the money I give him as a gift. I do not give him anything that I would want back. I am not going to set myself up to fall out with family over money, so I will not give him enough to matter. Story 42. Personally, I would say do not co-sign for anyone for any reason. The only exception I would make is for my spouse if both of you must be listed on something that you will both use. Story 43. Pick a career you truly enjoy. When you do something you love, you will never work a day in your life. Story 44. A millionaire has saved $1 million, not merely spent $1 million. Story 45. Get the most from what you spend. If you are planning a big change, try it before you buy. Story 46. Balance your checkbook every month when the statement arrives. Knowing your true balance helps you avoid expensive overdraft charges. Do not rely on the bank's balance as the actual balance because the bank has a lag time and does not know which checks and electronic funds transfers are outstanding. Story 47. Housing aside, getting out of the middle class will largely depend on the number of car loans you take out and your ability to minimize taxes. Story 48. If you don't ask questions, you're asking for trouble. When you need to spend wisely or not at all. Story 49. Everyone has a different perspective on money. I believe cryptocurrency and similar assets can be good investments, but my father considers banks to be much safer. Story 50. Do not be financially dependent on another person. Everyone needs their own money. Story 51. Art doesn't pay, said someone who had just finished film school and was looking to make a living in the entertainment industry. Story 52. Increase the coverage limits on your car, homeowners, and renters insurance. You never want to be one bad day away from a major unplanned expense. Story 53. Poor people do not use headboards. When looking for a property, check headboard height in all bedrooms on all walls. You are looking for bedbugs. Bedbugs cannot survive a frozen winter, and that is one of the few reliable ways to know they are 100% dead. This advice came from a pest control specialist who had seen it all. Story 54. Consider how many hours of work it takes to earn the price of a purchase, especially for frivolous items. Story 55. It is not necessarily the truth, but my parents tried to scare me when I was a young adult by telling me that credit cards are evil and dangerous. They ruin people's lives. They drilled that message into me, and I am glad they did. I have always been too careful with credit. I have friends who saw it as free money and spent more than they had, finding themselves in terrible debt. Story 56. Anything over $10, wait overnight. Anything over $25, wait 1 month. For large items, wait 6 months. Story 57. Paying for gas and groceries with a credit card is like feeding a dead horse. Granted, that was 50 years ago before credit card points and debit cards. It was a lesson in bad debt. Story 58. The reason the rich were rich, Vims reasoned, was that they managed to spend less money. Terry Pratchett's boot theory states that buying good quality boots saves money over time compared with repeatedly buying cheap, poor quality boots. Story 59. People who want to be rich to live richly will likely never get there, because with every pay bump they splurge. Truly self-made multimillionaires live frugally. You would never know their wealth. I made a New Year's resolution to spend more because I am a hoarder and work is very stressful. Cutting my hours in half is mentally difficult because every day I do not work feels like losing thousands of dollars. I do not even need the money. My housing costs are less than half my household income. I live on less than 20% of my pre-tax income, and I do not have children, but I cannot stop working. Being the child of immigrants who arrived with little likely instilled a fear of losing money in me. Story 60. Having $1,200 in your account does not mean you can afford a bicycle that costs that amount. Story 61. I have 2 things to consider. 1. Is this item I am about to buy a need or a want? 2. I would rather spend more money on something that will last than spend less and have to replace it in a year. Story 62. Never borrow money for anything other than a house and an education. Story 63. Always buy the oldest house you can find. It has served me well for 50 years. Story 64. Do not spend everything you earn. Invest often and early. If you are in your early 20s, even $5 a week is okay. But it has to be something. Story 65. Do not go into debt, especially with a credit card company. Story 66. Always round up. My grandmother taught me this, and I have made it a habit. An item that costs $25 I treat as $30. $750 I treat as $1,000. And $15,000 I treat as $20,000. If you budget this way, you will always come in under budget. Story 67. I had a business school professor who told me that the American economy, together with the government and multinational corporations, is trying its best to get you to spend every last dollar you have, and when you run out, it wants you to take on as much debt as you can to buy things you do not need. The scary part is that it becomes more effective every year at persuading you. That is what every individual faces every day. Story 68. You are right. Everyone talks about saving and investing. I read some great comments below. For me, it was reading newspapers, financial magazines, and researching topics or concepts that I did not fully understand but saw repeatedly mentioned. This has really helped me build my own understanding of what works and what is just noise. Story 69. 3 things that will nullify any investment strategy. 1. Divorce. 2. Prison. 3. Major injury or illness. Marry the right person. Keep your nose clean. Take care of your body. Story 70. I saw Jay-Z say, "If you cannot buy it twice, you cannot afford it once." I try to remember that when I get the urge to spend money. Story 71. It's only money. Don't worry if you lose or waste some. You can always get more. Story 72. Don't buy it unless you can afford to buy it twice. Be realistic. Ask yourself, is this a want or a need? Story 73. Don't lend money expecting to be repaid. Only lend to friends or family if you can afford to lose it. Never co-sign a loan. Story 74. I was told by an older colleague, if you want to be rich, stay married. That is no guarantee, but a divorce can be extremely costly. Story 75. It will always be on sale again and for more. Also, if you want something, wait 3 days. That tends to be a pretty good filter to stop you from buying things you do not need. Story 76. If you want to double your money, fold it in half and put it back in your pocket. Story 77. Do not buy things you cannot afford. You cannot spend your money twice. Once it is gone, it cannot be recovered. Story 78. This probably is not what you are looking for, but my mother always told my sister and me that if we could not afford something on our own, we could not afford it. I am in a 2-income household, but I always look at large expenses this way. The same applies to our monthly bills. I find myself following this advice often. Story 79. Don't loan people money. There's always a risk you won't be paid back. If you have the means and want to help, consider it a gift and save yourself the stress. Story 80. Cafes and restaurants are places for socializing, not primarily for food. That is, make your meals at home rather than buying lunch or dinner, except when you are catching up with friends or loved ones. Story 81. You do not need to save money every month. You just need to make more. Story 82. Buy quality for the things that matter to you and choose the cheapest option that does the job for everything else. Story 83. Hard work is good, but first take care of your head. Story 84. No matter how much you save or spend, you cannot buy more time. Story 85. Whatever your income, try to spend 5% on self-development. That could be a gym membership, education, or training. If you do not, you are unlikely to improve your financial situation. Story 86. If you use something every day, it is worth spending more money on it. If you use it sporadically, spend less. It makes more sense as I get older. Story 87. People today keep buying things they don't need with money they don't have to impress people they don't even like. George Carlin. Story 88. It doesn't cost anything to pitch a tent under a tree on a quiet, deserted beach on the north shore of Kauai and stay there for a few months. Story 89. If you cannot buy something twice, you cannot afford it. Story 90. It is not the number 1 piece of advice, but take care of your teeth and floss to save money and protect your teeth. The same applies to your overall health. Eat healthy and exercise to avoid future medical expenses. Do not waste your money on junk food. Story 91. Look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves, said an incredibly tight arse who is absolutely richer than me. Story 92. If it flies, floats, or fornicates, always rent it. It is cheaper in the long run. Felix Dennis. Story 93. Make an Excel file listing all your monthly costs and savings. Each month, record how much you spend on each item. When I was playing a mobile game, I did not realize how much money I was spending. €5 here, another €5 there, maybe €10 here, and another €5. Only when I followed that advice did I realize I was spending over €100 a month on the game and asked myself what I was doing. Story 94. This is literally how I live. $0 in debt. Story 95. My mother always said the best thing about having money is that it gives you options in life. It is not about stuff. That really stuck with me. So many people stay in crummy jobs or relationships because they cannot afford to leave. Story 96. Take care of your health. Avoid alcohol and tobacco, eat nutritious food, get enough sleep, and exercise. You cannot work if your health is poor. Women, learn about menopause early. Seek healthcare as soon as possible when symptoms first appear. Story 97. I beat the banks by using their credit card perks, literally earning benefits just for letting them have me use their products. I use a different credit card for each purchase to ensure I get the maximum benefit. I even use a Google Chrome extension called Wunu that tells me which card to use. Story 98. You would make more money by investing your extra cash than by paying down your mortgage. Story 99. Kamal Khan. Spend it quickly, Mr. Bond. Mr. Bond. I shall indeed, Kamal Khan. Story 100. You make money when you buy a house, not when you sell it. An elderly small-town real estate agent said this to convey that you control the price when you buy, but when you sell you are at the mercy of buyers and the market. Story 101. Do not worry about expenses. Focus on making more deals and expenses will eventually take care of themselves. Story 102. Start your own business. You will never earn as much for your effort working for someone else as you will by owning the source of revenue yourself. Some will be wealthy, others will just get by, but you will always keep a larger share of the rewards of your work than you would as an employee. This is more a career-long decision than a short-term idea, unless you have significant resources or get lucky. If you can live with family for a year or so while you build something from scratch, any service-based business can be started with very little capital from home and can have you earning real money by the end of that year. Today, I earn a six-figure living while working a few hours a month. I have a great team and automated systems that handle much of the back end. I worked hard for years to get here. By automating most daily tasks and hiring as I grew, I turned a small side business into a thriving career with a third location planned for next year. It has radically changed how I view investing. If you are consistently earning 10% in the stock market, you are doing incredible. But for every $1 I spend in advertising, I get $10 back in revenue and $5.50 in profit. I cannot think of many people whose investment strategy delivers a 550% return. I think most people do not realize how many opportunities exist today in a world with few competitors and so much concentration among major businesses. All that is missing is more people stopping the belief that they must be only workers, taking seriously the effort to learn how to run a business, and then going out and doing it. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.